Let's talk living while black. There's a question, just I think as a woman, I wanted to ask you all. I think that we have seen lots of stories. We started talking about Eric Garner. We have talked about what happened at Starbucks with the two men who were, I think, attempting to go to the bathroom. I get followed around in stores. So I thought about something, and you always hear this idea that like black men are scary and that police are scared of them, that little old ladies are scared of them, about women crossing the streets when it's dark and they see them. And someone responded to that. It was a conversation going on online, and someone said, I, as a man, cross the street. Because it's a less hassle for me if I see a woman, I cross the street. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to be accused of anything. I don't want to be seen a certain way. And it started a long conversation of things that black men do to not be seen as a threat every day, to just not have to deal with the hassle, to not potentially be arrested or frisked, or just have their day be extended and then be potentially put in danger. Are there simple everyday things that the three of you do that would, just every day just to go through life? You're grinning over there. I feel like you got a long list.
I want to start with our new guy, or David.
Sure, yeah, I'll start.
If there's something you have on top of your head.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we'll start with the top of my head. I wear hats a lot, mostly because I'm going bald at a very young age, but also as a fashion thing. But I don't ever wear them backwards. I don't ever wear them cocked to the side. I don't ever wear them anything but straight forward. So I don't want to give off any impression that I'm in any sort of affiliated member of any sort of gang or any sort of, because in certain regions of the country, they wear their hats cocked to a certain side to notify gang affiliation. I don't want to give off any hint like that. So whenever I do wear hats, it's always a straightforward brim straight down on my head. That's just to start. My personal interactions, I look people in the eyes whenever I'm around them. I look them in the eyes, let them know I'm not a threat. I say hello, I smile, I address people, I acknowledge people. That's the pastor in me, because my father's a pastor, but it's also a defense mechanism to let people know I'm not a danger to them, especially police officers. I make it a point to approach police officers first and say, hey, hello, how you doing? I'm not avoiding you. You have no reason to fear me. How you doing? I'm your friend, I'm an ally, you know what I mean? I give off this air of lightheartedness, of jokiness, and when I have rough days, I'm a human being. I have rough days. I have days I'm upset, I'm frustrated, I'm going through it at work, whatever the case may be, and I still have to switch it on and still be this affable, polite, friendly, kind person in public. To people that don't know me, I have to kind of put on this act like I'm your friend already, and we don't know each other, but I have to let you know not to be afraid of me, because I know what the majority of people think when they see me, especially the way I have my beard, the way I have my hair, They see me, so they think a certain thing.
What about you,
That's
Dave?
just a start.
I'm 6'9". Look, I don't get on, I'll be honest with you, elevators are terrible for me, so I'm dead serious. If I'm not getting on the elevator with a white woman by myself, no chance. I'm gonna wait, I'm gonna let her ride it by herself. I don't even want right? I avoid elevators in general with people because people want to disarm you. So as soon as they say, hey, how tall are you? That's a disarming mechanism. They want to make sure that I'm not gonna rob them or beat them up or anything like that. But there's a historical context here. So Du Bois developed this concept of the double consciousness, right? It's this way there's a way that we are as black people that we think as natural people, right?
Yeah.
We have our way to think. But then there's another consciousness that we have to have. And when we're out here trying to figure out, well, how is that person perceiving me? How do I have to act or think or behave to make sure that that person over there doesn't perceive me a certain kind of way? So it's always a dance, right? It's always here we go, right? So even in the airport, I travel a lot. I'm staying away from folks. I don't want to hear anything. And even someone like myself who has visibility, people recognize me most of the time from what I do as an athlete, and it's still that, someone's gonna clutch their purse, right? We had it like 15 minutes before I walked in here. Right when we walked out of the restaurant from eating lunch, right? We clutched their purse. Oh, I'm not gonna rob you, lady, but okay. It's a constant for us, and I dismiss it most of the time, and I just remove myself. I don't even create the option. When when I've been in settings where there are multiple people over 6'5", multiple people over 6'8", and those are the worst. So we'll just wait until everybody clears, like everybody, before we walk in somewhere or before we decide to go in this place to eat, because it's like, oh, maybe it's too many of us. So these are the constant thoughts that we deal with, regardless of your socioeconomic status. And Professor Gates at Harvard is a prime example of that, right? World-known historian, lived in Harvard, everything, and he gets thrown to the ground, handcuffed, because someone assumed he was breaking into his own home.
I was born here in LA. I grew up in St. Louis, then Detroit, and then came back. So I feel like I've been in 3 different parts of the country, and it changes as you go. As you said, you travel a lot. So you'll see if you go through Georgia versus when you go through LA, you'll get different perspectives, and you'll forget sometimes, oh, I'm in this part. My wife's father's side of the family is from Baton Rouge. We go down there sometimes, and then so we'll fly into, say, New Orleans, or then drive down to Baton Rouge or anything like that, and walking through the airport is like, I can feel it. Or then I see a certain way this employee is being treated, and I was like, man, I've been in LA too long. I forgot it's like this. Because like I said, I grew up in St. Louis, and it was bad. So I do it. I go out of my way even when it's black folks sometimes, or just women in general, because I do get it. Because there's a level of women get attacked more than men in general for things like that. So I'm like, I don't even want someone to feel uncomfortable with me behind them. Right. Or a lot of times when I see them, I'm like, I'll scoot and go ahead of them. And I've thought, I am setting myself up for an attack. Gotta be honest, because everybody ain't great. And just because they don't look suspicious to me, I've just made myself vulnerable to make sure that they aren't afraid of me. Right. And I've thought that, I was like, man, I'm kind of a sucker with this. And there's been times when I've had to go walk my wife's dog, which I don't want to walk at midnight because, he hasn't gone yet. I'm like, I gotta go outside and walk this dog. And sometimes you'll see some,
like, you're scared of
random
you just don't want the.
You don't know who's around either, right? So there's, so if it's unknown. So I've used what I can see as scary to my advantage. I put a hood on. I can barely get a hood over my hair. I put my hood on, and I have my hair everywhere. I look crazy. I purposely make myself look scary so that anybody who looks will be like, I'm not gonna mess with him. He looks like the threat. I've purposely done that because I don't want anyone to see me as a target.
You pulled off real fast when the police drive by?
Absolutely, right? And it happened one time. It was another black guy. We were on the same side of the street. I was doing that. I just had my hair up like that. I put it on. We were walking towards each other, and he saw me. It was dark. He could barely see me, but he saw crazy, and he stopped and directly went across the street. And I was like, man, I felt so bad for him because he didn't want to do it. I saw the thought process. He went, I shouldn't do this, but you know what? I should do this because he should have. That was my point in doing it. So we understand how we can look, and we do the opposite to make sure we don't. And then so it even, I think Chris Rock said it before when he's talking about going to ATM. He goes, I'm not looking for white folks when I'm at the ATM. I'm looking.
Right.
Remember that?
Yeah.
It's not just white folks who have been, this hasn't been ingrained in.
Right.
Black folks are afraid of black folks.
It comes down from white supremacy.
Yeah.
And that it does internalize itself within black people.
Because black folks, there's so many black folks who aren't a danger. Right. Are like, I'm not a danger, but I don't know him.
So I've had funny experiences. So in the NBA, so there's a scene in Malcolm X, the movie, where the guard says, "Break it up, Baines," when he's sitting around, sort of, I don't know, talking to people or whatever. So I've had that experience, and I've been in situations where I'm like, damn, I wonder what they think I'm saying to these guys, right? Being someone who is,
about that every day.
I've been informed. I've never hidden the fact that I've tried to be more knowledgeable about things, and so when rookies and things would come and be around me, it's always like, we wonder what he's saying. And then they've actually said to me, hey, they asked me what you were talking to me about. And I'm like, well, just tell them what I was talking to you about. How to survive in the NBA. Because they see me and assume that somehow I'm engaging in some sort of
exclusion.
Yeah.
But we talk about that all the time. We say that, and even here in this environment, as I think you can imagine, is really we're treated very fairly. Like there's no, it's not. Do you know what I mean? This is the least amount of microaggressions I've ever received in my whole life in a building ever. Right. But we talk about like having those moments where the three of us will be standing at JR's desk talking, and Dan walks over and it's like, oh, one of y'all gotta leave.
Too many. It looks like we're conspiring.
I feel like this looks bad. And even knowing that, I'm safe here, I still can't break that feeling of, all right, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave. Like, you know what I mean? And
it's ingrained. And I don't know. This was my perception. I just met you today, and I love the NBA. I've been watching NBA my whole life. There's, I think, a perception you have from playing that you're a tough guy, because you have to be. You play the NBA, and especially in the position you play and the kind of guys you have to go up against. So people will see that, and if they see you out at a restaurant and say you're talking to friends, and you're like, and they can't hear you, they're like, oh, David is crazy. I saw him. I saw that one time when he was playing defense and he didn't like that foul. And you have to be aware of that because you're talking to a friend. It's unfair.
Yeah.
I mean, before we move on too, I don't want to lose track of your perspective too, because I know black women, especially in the civil rights movement, got often forgotten about, and their perspective was so lost in the struggle because the struggle was to what is a man, And so I don't want to lose that here in this conversation. I want to make sure that we get your perspective too. As well.
But he didn't have to give that little speech,
A little historical precedent.
But I liked it. No, absolutely. I think just as a woman, you were just kind of what you were talking about. There are moments where, like, I get nervous about taking an Uber at night, and I feel like I have to do all of these things to make sure that. And it's weird because I have gotten to a point. I think that black women's bodies are over sexualized, right? And so then you become uncomfortable with yourself. And I used to not wear V-neck dresses at work. I would always wear a shift dress that was like high neck, and make sure it was like a certain amount of like being loose. And at one point, like I just have to wear a paper bag because it's like, do you know what I mean? Like, this is my body is gonna be shaped like this. Like, I need to be able to dress how I want to look. But that took a lot. It took a lot of like you being worried about us wearing the same dress, and for some reason you think that I'm going to the club. Do you know what I mean? But we're both wearing the same dress that we got in the work section. So I talk about that. I do worry about how loud I am. And how that's perceived. I worry about pushing back on, and we have a lot of debates here. We have a lot of conversations here, but I worry about how when I'm passionate about something, how it looks to other people. And I'm not angry at all, like you know that. Like I joke around all the time, I'm super happy. I will light you up if you need it. But generally, like I'm a happy person, and I worry about being perceived as angry all the time. Or combative or aggressive all the time, yeah.
And this happens, you've told me stories. So even when people think, to everyone else out there, if you think you're sometimes being positive, some people like ask, oh, how tall are you? They think they're going, oh, this is a conversation starter. Oh, he must never get asked this. But when people be like, if say you're wearing whatever dress you wanna wear and they go, okay, girl.
Right. Why you change your voice? You don't talk like that. Right, like that's how I feel. Like I don't talk like that, you don't talk, like what? Why do you do that? Or okay, booty, like we're at work, relax. Do you know what I mean? Like things like that. You can't talk to me like that.
And they think they're getting along, but it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Also, no, you ever can you touch my hair? Like you know what I mean? I don't.
How everyone doesn't know that yet?
Everyone here knows that. Thank goodness.
And like being someone with height, and that's a.
You keep rubbing it in, man.
Yeah, but I mean, so being objectified, right, is something that as an athlete you almost have to accept, and then you've got to be able to mentally remind yourself of what you are, right? I'm a human being, right? I feel pain. I remember when I had when my first daughter was born. My daughter was born. She had a little health complication, and people are like, people have babies every day. Just get out there and play. And it was, again, you have to humanize yourself because others won't.
Yeah.
And we deal with it. When you're tall and you stand out, people touch you and they grab your hands. And how tall are you? Oh my God. You don't want to be the spectacle. You don't want to be the center of.
Right. You don't want to be touched.
Right.
strangers don't touch me.
Right.
It's so weird, and I can't imagine if I was tall. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and you were talking about smiling. I wish I had to walk outside acting like I had to be cheery every moment. Like, you know what I mean? Like, get out of my face. And a lot of you don't even have like the opportunity to do that. And I feel like we could have such a long conversation about how racist so many aspects of how people treat athletes. Even like, almost like forgetting this idea of it's a job and they should be in control of where they work just as much as the rest of us want to, how they dress. And we talk about like culturally significant clothing and how it doesn't mean gangbanger. It just means like this guy on TV wears it and it's really cool and I like it. And do you know what I mean? And things like that. Yeah, and touching people.
Sorry.
The whole combine process has always made me super uncomfortable. It's always reminded me of the slave trade block of okay, now let me see how tall you are, let me see how high you can jump, let me see how strong you are, let me see how much you can lift. Lift your chin, look to the side, open your mouth. It always gave me very uncomfortable vibes, even before I learned and read more about our history and what that looked like.
Right.
People feel like there was I forget who told me this, but they said professional athletes are the highest paid employees in the world because they're paid well. So people think, hey, you get paid so much, why don't you do this? Or you not deserve to do that. You know how much you get paid? And they go through all this and they still feel this ownership over saying whatever they want to them, touching them whichever way they want to. Kyle Lowry in the finals. Because he dove in the stands. And by the way, if he didn't dive in the stands, they go, where's the passion? When is he gonna hustle? Then he dives on a 30-year-old lady in the crowd and then her kid spills his popcorn. Oh, he just landed on them like that. So we saw, if you don't know the story, there's some minority owner of the Warriors who shoved him. And we saw how it went down from that.
That was horrifying.
To clarify, a Caucasian minority owner, percentage minority.
Oh, you meant like, right.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I just happened to be confused.
Right. Do you know what I always think about? I always think about, because I'm from Oklahoma, so I always think about Kevin Durant going to Golden State. And just from my experience, do you know the biggest fan base of Oklahoma City Thunder fans are? Who hate that he left Oklahoma? It's people who left Oklahoma. Like me, because I lived there. You know what I mean? Right. And they don't even think about that. You don't even think about that. Like, you left too because you don't want to live in Oklahoma. And I think everybody should have a grandparent who lives in Oklahoma because it's really green. You should spend spring break there and roll down grassy hills and then go home to another state. Because I'm country.
It came out.
Yeah. But we do. It's such a good conversation.
Yeah. And lastly, with that, I'm sorry, with the people knowing how much everyone makes. Hey, if your accountant messes something up, or whoever else makes a decent amount of money, should not be able to go, hey man, you just made $150,000 last year. I need to know more. You need to shape it up.
Right.
Like, the criticism for people's profession based off of how much they make because you're jealous of how much they make and because you'd rather have their life than yours has always been so annoying to me. And so I was a failed athlete. I'm not jealous of the ones who made it. It's really weird how that works. And then I've always said it, I've had a disagreement with someone else about it, and I don't like how some folks go after certain people who've made a certain way because they would like to be there. So the criticism and I think the touching comes from that.
Right.
So the reason I'm connecting that is like, oh, well, they're just that guy that I see and I'm gonna touch him and do this or get mad at him because I had this perception I built up of him. And it's maddening.
There was a incident this year with Russell Westbrook and a little kid slapped him. He was running by him and then Russ did the right thing. He didn't say anything to the kid. He addressed the dad, and told the dad, tell your child to keep his hands to himself. Another historical point. There's another book called Professional Savages, and it basically this is the history.
You're gonna give me a list because I got like 6.
I'm making a list. I know. I feel like we should post this list.
Yeah, and so this book talks about the beginning of the circus and who the first spectacles were in the circus. And these were indigenous, a lot of time indigenous people that Europeans going around the world found and wanted. They were called curiosities. And they would basically take a family of Aborigines or a family of Africans from Ethiopia and parade them around Europe as spectacles. And this is where the othering began. So, I wasn't. I was one of the people who weren't crying tears when the Barnum and Bailey Circus closed, because that's where P.T. Barnum got his start in there. And it was the idea that these were other people. They were taller than some people. They had the Aborigines throw the boomerang, and that was a thing.
Right, yeah.
And
I believe
literally,
young Frederick Douglass was paraded around for his intellect.
and then a lot of.
Jacorey said, I read books too.
But a lot of the scientists, this was them, sort of picking which side of the coin, because the conversations became, I don't think they're as ill human as you think or making them out to be.
Right.
You're making them ill human so you can make a profit. These were conversations being had around the spectacle of these darker humans, these people who were different, and these people who were othered systematically.
I'm like, darker humans, oh my gosh, it's a whole other conversation. Unfortunately, we have to go to break again. But if you like what you're hearing, and I hope you do, I really hope you do. I'm really enjoying being here and being able to bring this to you. This next half hour of this conversation is actually going to members only. If you are not a member, what are you thinking? You need to be a member. So you just need to go to tyt.com/trial. And that way you can sign up, get a little taste of it first, and you can sign up. And Jacorey, it's been great having you here. I think this is our first time being on a show together.
Yeah, it was so fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being
Juneteenth
here.
brings folks together.
Absolutely.
It does.
Unity.
If you tell them about it.
Unity.
Like what you see? Click the subscribe button below, and don't forget to ring the bell to never miss another video from the Young Turks.